We don't start each podcast off with a sponsorship, but we do start each podcast off with an encourager. And this week's encourager for this episode is DePaul Foxworth, my husband. He encourages me not only every day, but every moment of the day. I'm so happy to have found him as a husband. And if you are a friend of DePaul, you are so lucky because he is such a giver. He gives to anybody. If you're walking on the street and you meet him, I'm sure he will give some kind of value to you, whether it's financially, spoken with his words, or just an act of kindness, because that's who he is. And he gives so much value in this episode of the I Killed My Own Killer podcast. So hold on, buckle up, and enjoy the ride of entrepreneurship that he takes you on in this episode. Hey, this is Caitlin with the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast, and I'm so excited because today, not only are we recording on live via Facebook and Instagram, but I have the honor of interviewing DePaul Foxworth, aka my husband, on all things entrepreneurship. So this interview is about to be fire! And if you're rewatching it, enjoy it on the podcast. And if you are live, you get the opportunity for a live Q&A session at the end. So stick tight, stay tuned, and get your questions ready in the comments because we are going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to take you from where DePaul is today to where he was back in the day. But I want to get started off with him giving us an introduction of who he is.
Hello, so we got this mic because Instagram needs a feed. We don't have one for Facebook, so you'll just be hearing us computer input or whatever. So, but my name is Paul Foxworth. This is my beautiful wife, Kaylin. We got a handsome little fella named Mr. Lincoln. I call him Mr. Lincoln, and so he's about to be 2 soon. But basically, I own a company along with my wife because her name is on everything. We own Predictable VA Loans, and so it's literally a marketing agency that generates leads for loan officers and mortgage brokers in all 50 states. And we got into marketing, the marketing agency business model back in 2017. And my last job was at Verizon Wireless before then. And so since then, that business has grown into a multiple 6-figure company and on the way to being a 7-figure company, which we're really excited about. But that's pretty much it. That's where I'm at now. And just trying to balance everything, being a great husband, great father, and a great businessman. And that's it.
Awesome, Mr. Foxworth. Well, you answered question number 1 for me because I wanted to know where are you at in your entrepreneurial journey? Because you can meet so many different people, and we were these people one time. Whenever they're like, "What do you do?" and we're like, "We're entrepreneurs." But we had no idea what kind of entrepreneurs we were. We had no idea what we wanted to do. So like that song says, there's levels to this. There's levels to entrepreneurship. So I really wanted you to explain where you're at in your entrepreneurial journey, which you totally did, and explaining who you are. So question number 2 is, you gave us a little bit of what your current goals are, but now I want to know, how are your goals changing? Because I have firsthand experience of knowing DePaul back in the day and where his goals were then, but I see the evolution of it. So I want you to explain how your goals are changing.
Yeah, so basically, I guess back when, we were in college, we first got involved in a network marketing company. It was called Amway. And so if you were some of our friends who are watching this, you obviously know we probably beat down your door, had you come to a meeting and you said you didn't want to work with us. Or you did say you wanted to work with us and you worked with us.
And that's how we became best friends.
Yeah, that's how we became best friends, man, all that stuff that led to us getting married. But anyways, back then, I think the first goal for both of us was to first obtain what we would consider financial freedom. And so what financial freedom is, in our definition, is basically having something that doesn't require us to work 40 hours a week or a typical 9 to 5 so in this case, an asset, which in this case is this company now that we own, to produce enough income to surpass our monthly expenses to where we don't trade time for money anymore, where we're leveraging other people's time, our money, as well as our information, our skill sets, in order to produce money for us day in and day out while we're sleeping, while we're up. And that was my first goal and Caitlin's first goal. And so now that we have achieved a pretty good aspect of that, now the goal is to get material things out of the way. That's like our biggest thing. Because I think, everybody wants the watches, they want the cars, they want the houses, they all want all that stuff. And we believe in delaying our gratification to an extent, but also going ahead and acquiring those things. And so we have like a huge journey that we've been through, which I'm sure we'll get to. But after we knock that out, I know that my goal is to knock that out before I'm 30. So then we can just focus on legacy building. And so when I say legacy building, that means like looking for what can I leave here for my future family. Because with Lincoln, he's great, and we also want some more kiddos. And so what we can leave for them and what we can help them build based on what we've lived. So whenever we were in the network marketing thing, I remember they asked the question. They said, who's your great grandfather? And so we didn't know who that was, right? And so they asked us, why don't you know who your great grandfather is? And the reason we don't know who that is because they didn't do anything. Meaning they only did enough to support what they needed in their lifetime. And so I want to be the great grandfather along with this beautiful great grandmother hanging on a wall with our picture and like a dog or something, and know that our great grandkids are going to look up and say, that's the grandparents that sacrificed for us to have all of this. And so I think the statistic is 80% of people in the third generation of a family that's built wealth, they end up losing it. That's a high percentage, 80%. So for us, it's not only just building it, but also passing the information. I think my dad said the best thing to me when I was like 25. He said, it's not about what you leave to your children, it's what you leave in your children. And so for me, what I understood for that is like, he could hand me all the material things he could ever want, but if he doesn't breed in me the characteristics that it takes to one, get those things, but then two, maintain those things, we'll lose it. We'll lose it down the line. So for us, it's cool to live life, get all the stuff we want. But our main thing and my goal is to, one, like I said, before I'm 30, get all the material things out of the way for both of us, and then after that, build a legacy. But with the legacy, pass down the information and set that up to where it's always being passed down for generations to come. So.
Awesome answer to that question. We have a lot of viewers on Instagram and Facebook. So if you are picking up what the Paul Foxworth is putting down, hit the like button, drop some comments there. Let us know what you're thinking or if you have any questions, because we're definitely here to give value to you. That is what the I Killed My Own Killer book series and brand is all about, adding value to your daily life and helping you hit those goals. And just from knowing DePaul, even before I was dating him, we're going to have this conversation like we're not even married right now. Whenever I knew him just as a person, he was always such a giver. So I know that one of the reasons he wanted to be successful is to continue to give at any level that he wanted to give. I remember our broke days when he could barely afford going to eat at Waffle House. Not only would he figure it out, but he would figure it out for the homeless guy on the side of the road too, just to give that dude a meal. So yes, he said that we want to knock our material things out of the way that we want to acquire in our 20s and our 30s. But a huge part of that is just helping other people get those things, but also being able to give to those people. And whenever you answered that question, you talked a lot about delaying your gratification. So to the person out there that's working a job right now but wants to have their own business, or to the person who started your own business and money's tight right now, can you explain to them what does delaying your gratification really mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Caitlin and I, we have delayed our gratifications plenty. So all delaying your gratification means is, instead of doing the easy thing of just always spending money on what you want and thinking about right now, it's taking the time to sacrifice, whether it's money or any kind of resources. It could be your time, which is the greatest resource that we have, and putting it towards something that's going to allow you to have something better off long term in the future. And so for Caitlin and I, we've had a lot of examples of that. I know, when it came to business, we didn't just automatically succeed like starting out. We had a lot of ups and downs. We literally have been almost evicted from like our apartments that we had and stuff like that multiple times. And it's funny to laugh about now, but it wasn't funny then. But in the times when we just wanted to give up and just go get a 9 to 5, God allowed us to not do that. Like he just every time I put in my whole entrepreneurial journey, which has now been 3 years of being like a tried and true entrepreneur. I filled out a job application twice, and in both of those times, it was the worst feeling on the planet. Like I just felt like this feeling over me, which I consider just a spirit saying, "Don't do it. That's not what I have for you." And so delaying your gratification is really just sacrificing things now for the betterment of your future. So
awesome. That is the perfect answer. Delaying your gratifications is taking away what you want now and putting it in the future. That doesn't mean getting rid of it or you can't have it. It means putting it off into the future. I love how you said that. Hey Adam, hey Val, thank y'all for tuning in and thanks so much for the comments. Just to piggyback off what you were saying about delaying your gratification, if you want more details on how we delay our gratifications as broke college kids and startup entrepreneurs and just trying to figure it out, that is in part 4 of the 4-part book series of the I Killed My Own Killer. So make sure you get book number 1, which is I Killed My Father's Killer, all about health and wellness. And the 4th book is all about just financial freedom, entrepreneurship, and business, and different things like this where we give you true life testimonials of what we had to do to delay our gratifications. And delaying your gratifications, what I'm learning, and you can piggyback off of this, is not something that you do one time and then it's over. It's something that you continue to do as an entrepreneur. We have a lot of business owner friends, and they're at super duper high levels, making $800,000 a month, but they're still delaying their gratifications. And you read a lot of things about successful people, they still have a budget. So no matter what level you're at, these are business principles that you should keep in your back pocket at every step along the way. And it's something that I've had to work on, DePaul's had to work on. If I make a book sale, I can't just take that money and go spend it on whatever shoes I want. It's either reinvested into my business, saved, or it's applied somewhere, which is the importance of budgeting.
absolutely.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about that?
Nah, I mean you hit that on the head. I mean that's really it. It's really just setting those things aside in preparation for making your future better. Because a lot of times, there's this book called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it just talks about every dollar that you have is like a seed to grow more dollars. So if you just squander everything that you have, meaning just take it and spend it, or just take a seed and just eat it, when you could have planted it into something, whether it's an idea or something else, it could have grown into something that provides shade for you in the future. So that's the same thing. I mean, but it's in all areas. Eating the salad today versus eating a McDonald's Big Mac. Or spending time going on a walk with your wife versus saying, "Hey, I'm gonna sit here and watch the game." Or when it comes to business, taking the time to invest into a coach or something like that, or saying, "Hey, you know what? I'd rather just go buy football tickets instead." So those are things that delay gratification, but actually allow you to do the things that you want to do more in the future.
Wow, those are amazing examples, because it's those little seeds that you plant, whether it's in your relationship, your finances, or your physical health, like I'm always talking about, that's going to either harvest later on or it's going to die. And I know for me personally, if I don't plant that seed and I don't see the harvest later on, it demotivates me in my goals. So that's why, even though you're delaying your gratification or you're planting that seed and you don't see the fruit right then and there, it's exciting and it's motivating to look forward in the future. And once you see it, it encourages you and motivates you to continue to move forward. But I love that you're always pouring out these amazing analogies. I always love that about you before we were even dating, because that's just who you are. That's why I fell in love with you. So we can take it back to that. Take us back to the DePaul Foxworth that worked a job that's completely different than this DePaul Foxworth business owner that we know now, just so our viewers and our listeners can get the two aspects of who you were then and how you had to grow into who you are now.
Absolutely. So the biggest thing for me back then, I dropped out of college. I was going to school for medicine, wanted to be a plastic surgeon, And I dropped out with a 3.5 GPA, so I wasn't like your dumb college kid who had like a 2.5, all right? And if you are that dumb college kid, you're good, all right? It's okay.
There's still greatness
Still
inside
greatness
you.
inside you. All right, but anyways, I ended up getting a job as a sales rep at Verizon, and I did that for a year and a half, and I quickly realized I just couldn't be employed by somebody else because my experience wasn't your typical job experience. I just felt like I was treated badly, you know? And so the thing is, though, back then, the DePaul then, if I'm just going to, like, just get to the point, I had two things that changed to allow me to be where I'm at now. And the first thing is I had to realize that life doesn't happen to me, you know, it happens for me. So basically, I just had to get out of the victim mentality. Because I think a lot of times when you are employed, and if you come up short, you say, hey, you know what, you know, I didn't get paid this much this week. They shorted my check, you know. You know, especially during coronavirus time, I'm sure a lot of people got their check shorted, all right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing, after, you know, removing the victimizing of my feelings when it came to financially, I had to realize that, you know, I am literally in control of my destiny. And, you know, God has a huge play in that. But at the same time, like, you still have to do the work, you know? And so, so DePaul back then, I always wanted to be successful, but I think I wasn't ready. Like, if God blessed me with what I have now back then, I wouldn't be able to handle it. I would have lost it immediately. And so when it came to when I was working there, I would see all these other business owners come in, and I would handle their business accounts, and I would just see how happy they were. They could come and go as they please, and I guess for me, I would just sit there, and I would look, and they had this glass door that people walk in, and I just always thought to myself, if I walk out of that door right now, just because I feel like it, I stopped making money. So I literally would have to clock out. And so, and I couldn't sell anybody that came in. And so whenever I saw that and I had that experience, I was like, man, I don't want my life and my financial life to be dictated by that. And so that's what started the journey, but it wasn't easy. You know, it was not easy. There were so many times, I remember like I ran out of cash in my first 4 to 5 months of being in business. I ran out of cash. And I had to start living off credit cards. And then I remember, like, that's when the eviction thing started. Like, you're about to get evicted, and then you pay it last minute because you closed a sale. And then you start doing all crazy stuff. I remember one month we walked dogs for, like, Thanksgiving. Like, 8 or 9 dogs.
8 or 9? You were well into the teens.
It was teens? It was okay. And we had to keep some of them in a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment. And, you know, a lot of people would say, oh, man, why would you share something like that? Well, it's because I know a lot of you out there won't do that. You know, your success is not something serious enough for you to do. So for us, it was. I was like, we're going to figure this out. And Caitlin was a huge part of that. And she said, hey, look, we got this avenue to make some money over Thanksgiving and get us our rent for the next month. So let's walk about, you know, whatever teen dogs. Mm-hmm. And they were everywhere, in the bathroom, in the living room, in the bedroom, in the kitchen. Everywhere. I feel like whoever the landlord was in that apartment complex, if they would have saw that, they would have said, what the hell y'all doing? So, you know, it's a lot of stuff like that.
And the crazy part is, we're laughing because they were like big dogs, little dogs in the corners you didn't even know were there. And I had to walk these dogs, or we had to walk these dogs around the clock. Because I had dogs in my apartment, I had dogs at people's homes that I scheduled to go walk. I had dogs all over the city that I had to take care of to make the money that we needed. But the crazy thing is, and what's so important, is we kept our dream and our vision alive the entire time. There was never a time where we couldn't make a bill and we said, man, we're broke, or we're going to be this way forever. We watched what we said, and we just kept the dream and the vision alive. So for those of you listening and watching, whatever that dream is for you, keep it alive. If that's leveling up in your job and you want that position, I don't care if Sally Sue is 10 times better than you and you really want it. Don't say she's better. You keep working for it. Or if you want to start that business that you have no idea how to start and all the odds are against you, who cares? You can start it, because that's something that was huge for us. And when we were constantly like making dream boards and talking about our dreams and our visions, and we used to say we want to be stay-at-home parents, and I used to think, oh, it's to be doggy parents because we're going to be stay-at-home parents with dogs and life is going to be great. Little did I know that God had in store an awesome Lincoln and more kids hopefully along the way later, because we truly love being stay-at-home parents and having the time to spend with them. And I'm thankful that we didn't give up on our goals and our dreams in those moments, and we stayed back to back. So if there's any couples out there that's trying to hit a goal together, stay back to back, because that's definitely the way that you hit it. Did you have any other tips for our listeners or our viewers about keeping that dream alive when times are tough?
Yeah, I remember it was, I don't know if it was in a speech I had listened to or it was in a book, but it was saying like sometimes you need to go out and experience your dream or like taste your dream. So what the book or the talk that I saw, what they meant by that was basically, let's say you want a Mercedes-Benz, right? So you need to go to a Mercedes-Benz dealership, dress up, and look like what you think a person who drives a Mercedes would look like, and you need to go sit in the car, all right? Ask the sales rep, hey, man, look, this is what I want to look at. Sit in the car, smell the leather, put your hands on the steering wheel, see if you can take it for a test drive. And even though you may not have any chance in buying it that day, right? The thing is, you at least got a chance to experience what it feels like. And so the same thing for whether it's a trip you want to take or clothes you want to try on. Go if you want some Balenciagas. Go if you got a Balenciaga store by you. Go to a Balenciaga store and try on a pair of Balenciagas. If somebody tells you, hey, you can't try these on or something like that, then I don't know. You may have just walked in there looking crazy, but you need to step up and go in there and experience it, because if you never know what it feels like or what it tastes like, there's no shot in you ever really having it. And so the same thing with, I never forget, there was this doctor mentor that I had when I wanted to be a doctor. And his name is, I'm not going to throw his name out there, but anyways, he's an awesome guy. I just didn't want to throw his name out there because I don't want his business out there. But anyways, he pre-ordered a Rolls Royce that he had delivered from Los Angeles to his house. And so I remember he was going to a church I was going to, and he let me sit in his Rolls Royce. And then he showed me what a Mont Blanc pen was. And a Mont Blanc pen is it's like $1,000 pen. A pen, all right? $1,000 pen, all right?
A writing utensil.
Yeah, writing utensil.
For the listeners.
Yeah, and so he let me hold the Mont Blanc pen, he let me ride his Rolls Royce, and he just took it around the block. And for me, just being in that environment, I was like, wow, man, that car was like a high six-figure car. I was just blown away by, the abundance and the wealth that this man had. But the feeling of what it felt like to be inside of something that expensive. So if it's a material thing or if it's just like having the ability to not have to show up to work because you control the system instead of being a part of the system, like that right there are like things that you need to go ahead and do and experience your dream. And it may be, being around somebody who has that, but not being a leech, being a person who's like a student. And so I think that was the biggest thing for us. And I just always tried to keep our dreams in front of us, talk about them, talk about what it would feel like. I think that for me, it's a lot easier to do because when I was a kid, I used to get in trouble. Teachers would send home papers to my parents and say, DePaul was daydreaming in class today. And I would always be daydreaming about my future, just always. And I still do that today sometimes. I'll just sit there and think about my future. And I live in the future sometimes. And so, a lot of times. And so with Caitlin, the thing is like when we are hanging out together, we just talk about our future together. And we literally just live in our future. And it's a lot of fun, one, but it also helps build belief because we're reinforcing each other's belief of what we want to do or what we want to have. Not just material-wise, but I'm talking about like as far as what we want our life to look like and our friends and such to look like. So in whatever you're doing in your life, just always, focus on believing that you're going to have what you want. And no matter your circumstances, just believe it's going to happen because God just rearranges it for you. He just does. Like, He's going to have, like, if your goal is to have a big business one day, expect you to get laid off or something like that. If you're not going to lay yourself off, expect God to go ahead and lay it off for you. Because I always tell her I believe that any desires that you have, He gave it to you. So, meaning God, He gave it to you. So He is trying to help you get it in reality, but you just have to believe that you can have it. And if you don't believe that, then what happens is, you honestly will never have it. But if you just believe that it's possible, you're always seeing it, you're always dreaming about it, you're tasting it, you're going to have it as long as you put it in work. So.
Good tips right there. I'm so happy you brought that up. So as you can tell, DePaul Foxworth is very positive. He's a big dreamer. He's super upbeat. Aside from being corny Caitlin, I am negative Nelly. Like, I am not this, okay? I am not DePaul. I am not a dreamer. So back in the day, whenever he's like, let's go sit in
Don't
this.
say that. You weren't a dreamer. Like, you weren't a big dreamer earlier.
Yeah,
now you are though.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a big dreamer, but as far as being a believer, it's hard for me to have my belief level at the level that he is at. So I've always been a dreamer, hard worker, same level as him. But as far as like believing it's gonna happen right then and there, being so excited about it, you could say that he's the optimistic one, and I'm more so a pessimist. So whenever he's like, let's go to Carfax and get a Mercedes and go ride around, or let's go get a Range Rover, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is a waste of time. We got stuff to do. Bills need to be paid, and this dude want to go ride a Mercedes we can't even afford. I have to wash my brain of all of that negative self-talk and really start believing that these things would manifest. And these are like habits that I'm dying to. Still to this day, I'm always working on it. And I think that's the biggest thing as entrepreneurs is you are always constantly working on something. It's never like you set this huge goal and then you've arrived, or you want to be this awesome person and then you've arrived. You're constantly in motion, you're constantly changing, and the work is never done. So it's really just like a mindset thing. It's a battle all the time, but it's definitely a fun one. My question for DePaul is, have you ever been just tapped out mentally, defeated, down in the dumps, and what did you do to pull yourself out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like more times than you know. I think the biggest thing is I always resort back to prayer, because whenever it's tough, like just because we may have some business success now, it doesn't mean like there aren't issues that pop up, and you know that. Because I like to share issues with her because some people say, "Oh, hide that from your wife." If my wife is going to be a part of my financial future, she needs to know what's going on. So I don't hide anything from my wife. And so with that, there are times where it's tight or it's a little tough, or like I remember I've been like a week short of basically losing the whole company, and so just for like cash flow issues. And so when those things happen, you literally just have to look at what's going on and reflect and reassess why you're in that situation. What can you do to be more customer focused to get you out of that situation? So when that happens, you're down in the dumps. You're like, dang, like I've wanted to give up. I wanted to quit plenty of times. But there's this author that I love, and I read all his books over and over and over and over, and over again. His name is Robert Kiyosaki. He wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad. And he said his rich dad always told him, he said, why quit when you're losing? Quit when you're winning. Because we all know when you're winning, you're not going to quit. But he said it's easier to quit tomorrow. Why quit today? Just quit tomorrow. Like, just give it another try today and just quit tomorrow. So every time I want to quit, which does happen, I just ask myself, like, why would I want to quit when I'm losing? I want to quit when I'm winning. Like, because then it's like, I'll let you win. Like I'm winning, so because I'm killing it so much in business, that's when I'm going to like stop. But if I just quit when it's hard, then I might as well have not even started. So so it's really a mentality thing. I mean, if I go back to it, it's one, realizing that none of the things that you're going to create in your life are from you, they're from God. And then secondly, remembering that you have everything that it takes and everything necessary. If you manifested it originally, you can make it as big or as little as you want, but it's just all your mentality. So I just think you just have to have a mentality if you want to win. Because if you don't have that mentality, it's you're not going to succeed at anything. And all of us have it. I mean, if you've ever been in any type of competition in school, if you've ever been in anything like a sport, if you've ever had a feeling of wanting to win, you have the ability to do anything. But either society, your environment, or your programming from people around you, they have suppressed that attitude and made you feel like I can't do it. You may be the best singer, and you just like I just don't want to sing. Or you may want to do a podcast, and somebody says you're like, I don't like the way the sound of my voice is, or something like that. So stuff like that, it's just defeating mentality that you have to look for your winner, your inner winner inside of yourself, no matter how hard it gets, and pull that person out and go for what you want.
Wow, that's good. And we all know that we have that inner winner, but sometimes the loser speaks a little bit louder, which is why a support system is huge to have around you to continue to encourage you whenever you have that loser talking louder than the winner, just to pull the winner out of you. So that's why I'm thankful I have you, a winner, sitting right by me. If y'all have any questions, definitely start putting them in the comments. If you were vibing with the winner mentality and you just want to know a little bit more about that, definitely put those questions in the comments. As you can see, we are very big on our mindset. That's why you see the bookshelves in the background if you're tuning in live. If you're listening to the podcast, definitely go back and listen to a few other podcasts that I talk about with goal settings and just different things like that. I'll refer back to a lot of other great influencers and podcasts that I've listened to or books that I've gained my insight from. And we try to read a book a month just to where we're learning something new. We're continuing our education. Because mindset is key. That's my favorite hashtag on Instagram because it just keeps you in that mode. Could you emphasize the importance of mindset for somebody that's trying to make that shift from job to business owner, for the struggling business owner, or just for anybody, the importance of mindset and environment and how those two play into each other?
Yeah, absolutely. So me and Kaylin, whenever we're hanging out, we're on a date today, and the biggest thing we talk about is mindset. And so I guess I'll use the analogy I was telling her today. The biggest thing about your mindset is that it can be affected by your environment. That's like the easiest thing is what you see, what environment you put yourself in. So if you think about people who live in an impoverished neighborhood and people who live in a wealthy neighborhood, they obviously have different mindsets. They value their time differently. They value their resources differently. And so because of that, they end up where they are. And so for Caitlin and I was talking to her about how I realized if you can hang around people who spend their money all day, like I always believe you're the average of the 5 million people you hang around. So if you hang around 5 people that spend their money all day and obviously always end up like short and don't have money, or they eat a lot of bad food all the time and they're overweight, then you're more likely to be overweight. You're more likely to not have any money because you're going to be doing the same things. And then if they speak negative about everybody else around them and always talking about somebody else's relationship and stuff that they're doing, then what's going to happen is their relationship is going to look like that. And so when it comes to your mindset, I always believe you need to be around people who are where you want to be. So we have a great mentor. I'm not going to drop his name either because I don't want all his business out there. But I just never forget, I was 2 years into not having a job, and I had asked him to mentor me. And I told him, I was like, man, I haven't had a job in 2 years, but I'm like barely making my bills with my business. And he said, great. And I was like, what? He said, dude, you're killing it. And I was like, what do you mean I'm killing it? He said, dude, you haven't had a job in 2 years and you're still alive. He's like, you are killing it. And when he said that to me, I'm like, what? And so the thing is, though, he's already like ridiculously financially successful, and he's been through everything that I was currently going through, and at the time. And when he told me that, it made me feel safe. It made me feel okay because he's where I wanted to be. But he reinforced my mindset for me. Where if I would have talked to somebody else, they would have said, like your average person would have said, dude, go get a job, man. You barely making your bills, go get a job. It was nowhere near the alignment of my goals. So when it comes to that, it's all about your mindset. And the thing about your mindset is it has to be reinforced with positive people and people that actually support your vision and your desires that you want in your life. Hey Kelsey, how are you doing? I see you're on here. So that's one of our good friends. She's very good at doing that. Her and her husband Blake, and so they are in our circle. We support their dreams and desires. They do the same thing for us, and so it's having good people around you like that, and that's what really makes a difference. So you just have to ask yourself, your future self, the person you want to be, the things you want to have. Would you bring the people that you're hanging around with now? Would you bring them around that person? And if the answer is no, you got some friends you got to start laying off. So it's really that simple. It's black or white. Caitlin loves zebras because they're black and white. I've recently started liking zebras because it's either black or white. All right, you can't straddle the fence about your success. You can't be like, I'm gonna kind of be successful. You either gotta be it or you're not. Like my dad said, if you're gonna do it, now do it. So you gotta either pick one or the other when it comes to your friends, your environment, all those things, and choose to be in the one that best fits your vision for your future.
Ugh, you hit so many points for that one question. How do you protect your mindset and your environment? And everything that you said was top notch. And I will elaborate more on it because, once again, DePaul is one way and I'm a completely different way. So for him, it's easy to see that it's black and white. Where I'm like, no, I can find some gray area. Like, I can be successful but still hang out with her even though she wants to go to the club on the weekends before coronavirus. Or I can still be fit, but still love on other people that, or like hang out with other people that like to eat hamburgers and pizza all the time. And whenever I tried to do that, whenever I tried to be black, but I was hanging out with another type of person, or whenever I tried to be A and I was hanging out with B, I never got to A. So I had to realize, you know what, DePaul and every other successful person that wrote these books, they're right. You have to be polarizing. You have to have those standards that you set for yourself, or else you're never going to get to that goal. Where I tried to straddle the line for the longest, and I found out I was definitely holding myself back. And after that, that's whenever I was like, all right, this is success principle 101. If you really want it, then you got to become it and follow it. And that's the biggest thing. Like, DePaul is very good at evaluating his circle. And if that person is not where he wants to be, in a nice way, DePaul just doesn't associate with them. Where I'm a lover and the nurturer, I guess is the woman in me, so I try to be friends with everybody, not realizing how that pours into me. And you can even bring that to a spiritual standpoint too. Like, that's when it really hit home for me, is when I realized just because I want to love on that person who may have tendencies that are different than me, not only are those bad tendencies affecting me, but now I'm allowing whatever bad spiritual influences she has to pour into me and my family. So Mama Bear came in and just wanted to protect me and my family, and that's when I finally started following those standards. But once again, it's always a process. We're always growing. So I'm going to hit you with lightning round, back-to-back questions. You got to try your best to answer them, which I know you can. And these are going to really be good for our listeners and our viewers. And if you have any personal questions for your business or where you're at right now, or something that you want to ask DePaul Foxworth, definitely put it in the comments. And if we can't tackle it all tonight, DePaul is going to be on a private Zoom call tomorrow for all the entrepreneurs out there, business owners who have very simple questions for their business and how to get it to the next level. So if you want details on that exclusive call, check out the Entrepreneurial Couples page. There was a post with the registration link and the Zoom link on there where you can sign up. That'll be tomorrow, Monday, October 5th at 7 p.m. Central Time. I don't know how my brain just remembered all that, but hey, we did it. Ready for the lightning round?
Ready to go.
Awesome. So question number one. For someone who's struggling just like you were when you couldn't get the bills paid and you were not the successful entrepreneur that you know you wanted to be, what piece of advice would you give them?
These quick, short answers?
Give me what you got.
All right. Just essentially just keep going. And anytime you feel like you don't know what to do, you need to get around people who have what you want, and you'll find it. I promise you. When I was failing, when I was going to school for medicine, I was failing organic chemistry, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to get in medical school. I felt like terrible, like all victimizing myself. And literally, I heard God tell me to go to the library. I went to the library, and I met some kids that were having success in the class, and I asked them, could I like hang out with them? And they taught me everything I needed to do. Next thing I know, I went from an F to an A. So anytime that you're struggling, you need to get around people who are where you want to be or doing better than you, so you can get that mindset and reinforce your beliefs to help you make the better decision. And make the next step to get you out of what you're in currently when it comes to your bills or whatever. And the sooner you do that, the faster you'll get through the struggle of that process.
Awesome. And even though we're in phase 3 here in Louisiana, I don't know what phase you're in because of coronavirus, but there's so many resources out there. Like, yeah, you can't go to a business mastermind probably and associate with other business owners, but you can go online to a business Facebook group. And the cool thing about that is them people don't know you. So go ahead and put the comments like on the post, or put a post about your current struggle, like, yo, I'm broke, can't pay the light bill, help me out. And so many entrepreneurs in that group, they're going to pour into you and fill your cup to give you what you need to continue to move forward. But I'm going to shut up because we're on lightning round still. So here's the next question. For that person who is dibby-dabbling in their business, but they're not serious about it, maybe they're a stay-at-home mom, they're a busy college student with a great business idea, or to that person that's stuck in their job, but they know they want to leave their job because their purpose just seems bigger, what do you think is holding them back, and how could they overcome it?
I think the biggest thing is being like indecisive. And so I always feel like you can't like dip your toes in and like expect to succeed. And so there was like this story, and supposedly this isn't a true story, but I like to think it is. And so it was like this Greek dude, and he was going to fight a war, and so or may have been an Asian guy. I don't know where the war was, but basically they were going to fight this war. They took ships to get there, and so whenever they got there on the ships, the guy told all his soldiers, he said, "Hey, look, light the boats on fire." And they were like, "What do you mean light the boats on fire?" They were like, "That's our only way back." And he said, "Well, we're going to burn these boats because if you don't win, then you're just going to die here." And so they burned all the boats, and they ended up winning the battle or whatever. So my mentality has always been just burn the boats, meaning like we literally, I left the job on a whim. Like literally just one day, guy said, "Hey, quit your job. You don't need it anymore," and I quit. Did I have a financial plan in place? I just said I'm going to do sales for myself if I'm going to do it for anybody else. Which is, that's like was my mentality. And I did. And was it the easy decision? No, it was the hardest decision ever. But if I didn't do it, it wouldn't allow me to continue to have that mentality and be able to take risks that will put me forward into the future. So definitely, I think, and not everybody has to do that. Some people can manage their time properly, meaning when they get off at 5, they can manage from 5 to like 10 doing their business until it's producing enough income that they can quit their job and have an easy transition. But for me, that's just not my mentality. I'm either balls to the wall or you just don't do it at all, you know? And so that's just how I am. But if you're the person that can manage your time properly, you just need to devote more time to your business because what you focus on expands. Mm-hmm. And so if you put some more time on it, or the equal amount of time that you put on your job, you put on your business, then yeah, the income from your business should start surpassing your job income, and you should have an easy transition. So it's either you're not putting enough time, and if you just want to put all your time in it, and either you get it to sale or it just sinks, all right? You either build it or you die. Yep. Like that's really it. I think I had heard something. They said an entrepreneur is a person who jumps off a cliff and builds a plane on the way down. And so that's just how I've kind of like I guess. That's how we've spent our life. Yeah, pretty much. So basically, you can do it that way, or you can slowly use your way out, but you need to devote more time to what you want. So.
Yeah, awesome answer. I love how you touched on that, and it's very rare that you meet that person who is working their business outside of going to their job, because here's what you have to realize. You working a job is a completely different mindset than being a business owner. And I know there's probably some people that are working jobs that are listening to this, and that's totally fine. Like that was us, but we made that shift to go to the other side. And it took us kind of unwashing what we learned and what we wanted as an employee and changing it to what we wanted as business owners, because whenever you're an employee, you look for that paycheck bi-weekly or monthly or whatever it is, and you're kind of okay with that. But when you're a business owner, you're boss of the wall, like Paul said, and you may not be getting any money in. So there's habits you have to erase. There's plenty of just different traits that you have to erase as an entrepreneur. And last thing I'll say about that is whenever we were in Amway, we have an inside joke about that, but whenever we were in Amway, we had to do different like motivational talks and different things, and it was fun. And one time around the holiday season, I gave this pretty badass example about Elf, because Elf is one of my favorite movies. So I was talking about like when I was doing Amway, I was so passionate about it because it was my first like entrepreneurial journey. So if you ever saw the movie Elf, you remember the part where he's going up the escalator and he has one foot on and then one's behind, and he's doing a total split going up the escalator because he has 1 foot on and 1 foot down. Well, like that's exactly how it is whenever you are working a job and then you're working your business. Like you're split in two different directions. You're not going anywhere. You're breaking yourself apart. So DePaul told me that God told him that he needed to quit his job. I listened to my fiance at the time, and I was like, okay, God will deliver. We'll figure it out, and we totally did. So Phil, I know you have a question. Definitely.
Phil, what's up, baby?
Put it in the comments. We're gonna keep going with this lightning round until we're done, and we're totally gonna answer whatever question it is. And by we, I mean DePaul, of course. So, what would you tell that person who doesn't have a good support system, environment, or family that doesn't believe in them? They're pretty much on their own. So they got people telling them that you're crazy. There's no way that business idea is going to take off. There's no way you could be successful in that. Stick to your job. It's a good paying job. What would you tell that person?
You're just dumb if you believe them. Because I always what's that? But yeah, I always look at like I remember there was this thing I read when I was in college, and This is what made me not want to be a doctor. They say look up the ladder. So whoever's giving that advice, look up the ladder, look and see where they are in their life. And if there's somebody who is where you want to be and they have everything that you aspire to have and they tell you that, then you may need to find somebody else to look up to. But because most likely that won't happen. But if it does happen, you need to find somebody else to look up to. But in the case where it's somebody like a family member or somebody else, a lot of times, like I would notice, some of my family members, they have a perspective and a dream for you that's the furthest they can see. And so you have to be able to see further than they can see, and that's why you want to do that. That's why they're telling you, you can't do that. That's not practical. That's not real. Like I'll just be honest, my mom used to say, you got to think practical. You got to be realistic. Realistic. I fucking hate that word. So basically, with being realistic, it basically means you got to get rid of your dreams, And so for me, I just never believed I had to be realistic. I just always believed, no, I can have, what I'm dreaming about that I don't currently have in this current moment in time. So it really is about protecting your dreams. And I think they say don't tell your dreams to small-minded people. And small-minded people are sometimes your family members. It can be your brother. It can be your sister. It can be your spouse. It can be your cousin. And that's okay. And so you just got to show them. But I will tell you this too. One thing I realized recently is that I remember I used to always because when I dropped out of college, I had close family members telling me that was a bad decision. You shouldn't have done that. And then once my business started taking off, 3 years later, I was like, yeah, I did it. I proved myself. And I realized they still complained even after the success came. And so I realized, at the end of the day, if you are attaching your success to proving somebody wrong, the success you have is not going to make you happy. And so you have to detach yourself from those people and what they say to you and just take it as, hey, Jesus said it on the cross. He was basically, God, they just don't know any better. And so this is the same thing with people, your close friends, your family who speak negative upon your dreams. Just say, hey, look, they just don't know any better, and just keep moving on because no one sees what you see for yourself. No one. Kayla doesn't see what I see for myself, and I don't see what she sees for herself. I didn't know that she wanted to do this podcast. She wanted to do live. She wanted to start her brand. She wanted to write her book. All right. I didn't know all that. She just started telling me, and I just did my best to support those dreams. And now she's literally got a physical book where there's people every day who think about writing a book, and they're 50, and they've been thinking about writing a book since they were 20, and they just hadn't done it. And you literally thought it did it in 3 months, and then it was done. So, but I always believe you can accomplish anything as long as you don't talk to people that tell you can't.
That's good. And Kelsey hit a really good point. It's surround yourself with great people. Get yourself a coach, a mentor, or somebody who's willing to pour into you. And you may think, man, I have to have money to get that. Not all the time. There have been people that God has put in our lives at the perfect time that were the people that poured into us to help us get to that next level when we really did need them. So we're going to finish up this lightning round, and then we're going to take questions. Philip, he's already got a bomb question in there that we're totally going to answer. I can't wait to open it up just because it's practical. It's real life stuff. So if you have any other questions, business, entrepreneurship, DePaul Foxworth, authors, writers, anything that you want to ask for DePaul, definitely put it in the comments so we can tackle it on this interview. Next lightning round question. What would you tell that person that doesn't believe in themselves? So they have a great business idea, or they kind of think they do, or they think they want to leave their job, but they just don't have enough belief in themselves. And that's tough because you've never been that person, I know.
Yeah, but I was telling Kayla this the other day because she was telling me, sometimes she'll be pessimistic to herself, and she's like, I don't know if this is going to happen. So I had to talk to her the other day, and I want to tell you all this, and I think this is very important. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody cares. I don't care. Kaylin doesn't care. Nobody cares. And what I mean by that is that when it comes to your dreams, if you don't do what you need to do to make it happen, nobody cares. And if you do what you need to do to make it happen, still nobody cares. So at the end of the day, nobody cares. So if you don't believe in yourself and you feel like that's an excuse of why you can't do what you want to do, you're victimizing yourself. You're victimizing your situation is a victim mentality. And a victim mentality is what doesn't allow you to accomplish what you want in your life, because you believe that life happens to you instead of, it happening for you. And so with that, I just feel like, for people like that, until you remove that victim mentality, I can't help you, nobody can help you, because in reality, nobody cares. So I told Kaylin that, and I told her, like, look, if you don't do what you got to do, nobody cares. Like, your life is going to go on. Everybody else's life is going to go on. But if you do what, you want to do, nobody cares still. Because there are going to be people who don't buy your product. There's going to be people who don't buy your services. But there are going to be people that do, as long as you keep going. So the only person that it needs to matter to is you and yourself and I. All right, so... Oh, you take it from me?
No, go for it. No.
So all I'm saying is nobody cares. So you gotta just basically understand that you are responsible for manifesting whatever you want. And now you have it.
That's a really good answer. And can you imagine my face whenever DePaul said, okay, nobody cares? Like, what do you think it looked like? Like it, drop some words, whatever you want to do if you want to see my reaction. Because it was like, Kim K, ugly cry. Like, are you serious? That's not the answer I was looking for. Like, you're my spouse. I need you to console me and be emotional because I'm a woman. But no, he was straight up, nobody cares. And it's very true. Like, after I reflected on that and had some personal time, that's why dreams go to the grave with people. Because they're just too scared to take that next step. And nobody cares, so they can't go to other people. You have to do it yourself. Like Kelsey said, it's a personal journey. You got to do it personally. Last question of the lightning round. What about that person that's scared of the technicalities of starting a business, or they're too afraid that it's gonna, they don't know too much about it? What would you tell them?
In my experience, you're not going to know until you do. So, like, you can read about something all day. You can research it, educate yourself. I mean, we live in today's science and information age. You can Google as much information on there as you want about, anything. But there's nothing like personal experience. Like, personal experience is going to provide you the best education that anything will. Like, for example, when I was going the medical route, you do 4 years of medical school and you become a doctor. Well, during 2 of those 4 years, you get they call it rotations, where you do a little bit of them. And basically, like, you can test out different medical specialties, where it's being OBGYN, a general practitioner, or, all the different things. And so you figure out what you want, but then once you graduate, they put you through residency, where you still don't get paid the big bucks, and you're just doing the job for like another 3 to 6 years, depending on what your specialty is going to be. So the reason they do that, the reason they don't pay you the big bucks, is because they want you to experience everything that you learn. And so they gain more information by actually doing the job as a doctor versus going to school, sitting in the classroom, and taking tests on it. So it's the same thing with business. In whatever dreams you want to do, you're not going to really learn what it takes until you're in the thick of it. And so that's why, like, people who just think saying I'm an entrepreneur is cool, they got 50 different businesses and all this stuff, and I got this, I got that. Like, if none of it's producing, it's one, because you are focusing on one, which I learned from a mentor. And then secondly, you're not taking the time to go through the thick of it and fail and be okay failing. It was another book I read, and it said you can't fail and look good too. It's just not the way it works. You can't be out here, about to get evicted, but be like, I'm good. Like, that does not work like that. It's not sexy to get evicted, right? So you gotta fail and be okay with failing, and understand that it's just not going to look good. And so go out there and just do whatever you think the next logical step is. And you're going to learn more than if you sat there and read about the next logical step to take versus doing it. So,
awesome answer. So be relentless. Don't have any fear. Just go after it and put one foot in front of the other to get to your dreams. That's what you would tell that person that's scared of the technicalities of starting their own business. And the cool thing is, the Bible is the best book to read, because there's so many examples in there of people where, like you were talking about earlier today, the disciples had to leave their businesses to go and follow Jesus, meaning they left everything behind, and they put one foot in front of the other and looked at what the purpose was. So the Bible is full of amazing stories about people that had that kind of drive. And Philip's question, his original question was, how do you balance being an entrepreneur, business owner, husband, wife, father, mother? And I'm just going to preface this. by saying it definitely takes work. It's not something that you can schedule in 1 hour and be complete with that. Because this morning, like, I will give you insight into our life. I had a meltdown because I was upset that he wouldn't let me recycle. And I know that sounds like I'm being a baby and wah, wah, wah. Recycling is such a little thing. He said recycling doesn't affect anybody. Recycling affects the world. But recycling is something that's important to me. And throughout this entire entrepreneurial journey, throughout our entire relationship marriage, I have been 100% on board for all of his goals. So the fact that he didn't want to recycle was like, you don't even care about me. You don't even care about my goals. So it took us sitting down over breakfast to talk about how I felt about it, because I'm a woman, I'm emotional, and how he felt about it as a man who's logical. So that's my little tip, is that whenever you're trying to balance it all, especially when you're a parent, it's constantly being in the motion of being open to listening to how that person feels, and just understanding that's how they feel. You can't change that. A marriage mentor of ours told us that. Like, yes, that person telling you how they feel about something, and you may not agree with it, but you can't change how they feel about it. So DePaul Foxworth, how would you say that you balance it all?
Well, one, keeping God first. And I'll tell you, it's funny, Philip's asking the question, but actually Philip is somebody that I have leaned on to learn how to balance it all too. So whether he may be asking that question for other people, but I'd be surprised if he's asking for himself, because the dude literally like is a prime example of how to do that. But basically, I know for me, it's just making sure that you keep your values in place. And so what I mean is, when we were in our premarital counseling, we learned that you got to put God first, then your spouse, and then your child, and then from there it's like work or business, whatever that is, and then you got church, serving, and then your family. It's like your family's like last.
So what are the top three?
God, spouse, and then child. All right. So, and when I say family, I'm not talking about my wife and my kids. I'm talking about my kid. I'm talking about like outside family, like brother-in-law, sister-in-law, brother, sister, mom, dad. So basically, when I keep those orders of importance in proper shape, I started realizing, like, if I get out of order, my life gets out of order.
Yeah.
So if I'm just overcompensating in business as far as time and not devoting, like, I remember Philip told me a long time ago, he said, dude, if I don't go shopping with my wife, like, that affects my marriage down the road. Like, stuff like that. Like, and because that's what his wife likes to do. She likes to go shop. And so, with not going to spend that time, it affects your relationship down the road. Like I was saying earlier, choosing to watch the game versus going on a walk with your wife, like little stuff like that. It's just those little seeds. It's the little things that hurt. It's mosquitoes that bite, not elephants, So it's the little things. And so so balancing it all is, I feel like it's like juggling, meaning like you're this was in a book called The One Thing, and it said, like, when you juggle your life importances, you have your health, you have your finances, you have your relationship, and you have your spiritual life. And it said that your like family relationship, well, let's say family. So let's just say like your family and your health, they said those, in the book, he said those two things are glass. And he said the other balls are like rubber, so they can bounce back. So basically, if you drop the work ball, it's okay, it can bounce back. If you drop the spiritual ball, you can bounce back. If you drop the relationship balls, like your friends and stuff, it can bounce back. But if you drop your family ball, if you drop your health ball, they're glass, so they can break. So if you like just totally let go of your health, you can die, right? If you totally just don't respect your spouse, you're going to end up in a divorce. It'll cost you a lot of money and affects all the other balls. So the biggest thing is make sure you don't drop the family ball and the health ball. And so whenever I read that, I was like, wow, that's a huge revelation for me to realize you're always juggling. It's not an act of balancing, it's an act of juggling. So just knowing which balls are more important to be careful for. You're still throwing them in the air. You're still throwing glass and rubber in the air at the same time. But make sure that you really watch those glass balls, because that can really, mess up or change, your life in a good or bad way. So
yeah, I loved all of those examples. And Philip also asked, like, what's the importance, or what's the order of importance? And so happy you opened it up with a totem pole example. That's really good just to always evaluate your life. And for me, I know if I'm feeling bad in any area, it's because my alignment is wrong. So I have to go back to that totem pole and say, okay, is God first? Is my spouse next? Then my child or children come. And when Lincoln was first born, it was so easy to just love on Lincoln and tend to Lincoln, and then things fell out of order. And I realized I'm putting my child before my husband, so you got to reevaluate. And the biggest thing that I always say with the I Killed My Own Killer brand is you're never going to be perfect, so just accept that. So all of the things you have to manage, your health, your finances, your relationships, they will never be balanced. Like, you will never have a day where you go to sleep and you say, man, I was a great wife. My money is great. I'm so healthy. I got the abs. I have super healthy, and I am right with God. Well, you're always going to be right with God, but maybe you didn't pray that morning, or maybe you didn't have one-on-one time with God, or maybe that day you didn't have a date with your spouse and he might be mad at you. You're never going to have it all together, so just be okay with that. There's nights where I go to sleep and the house is a mess. Okay. There's nights I go to sleep and Lincoln had a bad day. That's okay. So accept that you're going to have imperfect days. You're juggling a lot of things, and that is okay. Last question for DePaul Foxworth is, what is the biggest revelation that you received when you went through the process of being an entrepreneur?
I think the biggest process is like, and the biggest revelation I had is never be afraid to start from zero. Meaning, like, my dad used to always say, don't put yourself so high up that you have, so far to fall. And so, I remember I had a conversation with you one day. I said, babe, what if we lost it all? Like, would you still be there for me? Like, I love that 50 Cent song, 21 Questions. And it wasn't about her. It was just about the fact, like, could you go back to those broke days, to those days of almost being evicted, to those days like being $1 short? What they say, $1 short and a day late, huh? Yeah. Could you go back to those days, and could you be okay with that and know that God's going to take care of you? So I think the biggest revelation I had during this whole journey leading up to where I'm at now is like, every experience that you have is just an extra notch in your belt to add to that skill set of you having more success in the future. So it's okay, like being okay with failing, being okay with not being enough or feeling like you're not being enough, being okay with messing up and understanding like, hey, you can always fix it again. Like, that's the biggest revelation for me, because I think everybody thinks that, you want to have this perfect life, and you may look at others and think, oh, they have this perfect life. And some people may look at us and say that. But in reality, the biggest thing is there is no perfect life. It's just a life that's always constantly being worked on. Mm-hmm. And so, my biggest thing I love to hear is Rome wasn't built in a day, but every day it was being built. So it's the same thing with this. Like, it's like a car. If you let the steering wheel go in a car, I don't care how well aligned it is, it's going to veer off to the left, it's going to veer off to the right. But if we want to keep going straight, we just keep adjusting the steering wheel over and over and over again. And that's the same thing with us in our health, our finances, and our relationship. Like, some days we never have like we don't like fist fight or throw anything at each other, nothing like that. But if we have a disagreement, that's now we're veering off, right? So now we just have to adjust and recommunicate and get it back together. Same thing in our health, like, dang, I missed out on the gym this week.
But we ate ice cream today.
Oh, today we had a blueberry sundae, and it was good. But that veered off. So it's just, you're just always adjusting, and if you get better and better at adjusting and being okay with coming up short sometimes, and just not taking yourself so serious, you'll be fine. At least that's what I've seen. I'm only 27. She's 26. We don't know what it's like 60, 65 or 70, but I'm assuming it's the same thing. So just keep adjusting. It just never. And hopefully answer the question. That's the biggest revelation for me, is that never be afraid to fail. Never be afraid to go back to zero, because those are the things you learn in your failures. You never learn in your success. That's what I've read and I've also experienced. So I believe that same thing.
Yes, that is a huge answer right there, Phil. I hope it answers your question. And just watching his personal journey, I was not that person that said, it's okay to fail. Like, yeah, go ahead and make those changes. I was that person that said, oh my God, you what? Like, no, that's not okay. Or I'm learning that it's okay. You have to give yourself grace in those moments. Whenever...
Oh, great.
No, you go.
No,
it's your interview.
I was just about to say that, with the failing and stuff like that, just always know when you're failing, there's other people who won't go do that because they're afraid of how people are going to view them. So basically, any move that I make, whether it's having a lot of wealth and financial resources and all those things, and then it all just collapsed, I'm cool with that. But where there's a lot of you out there who wouldn't want to do that because you're afraid what people are going to say about you. Like, can I curse on your thing?
I mean, I said bad egg.
Okay, I don't give a shit. I'm just being honest. I don't care about what people think about me because that's what it takes to succeed. It just is what it is. Like you can't go through life living scared and expecting to succeed. It's just not the way it works. So you have to be okay with just failing, and so that's pretty much all I want to say. Yeah,
Phil, that's a huge revelation right there. Like, do not be afraid of what others are thinking because at the end of the day, they're not going to pay your bills. They're gonna.
Don't we always say that?
Oh, absolutely. But they're not going to do the things that it takes to get to where you want to go, and they probably don't even understand where you want to go. So if it's people talking negative or self-doubt that's in your way, then totally get rid of that and fill yourself with amazing people who's going to help you get there. This interview was amazing. If you have any other questions, messages, or put them in the comments before 24 hours because tomorrow at 7 p.m., October 5th, we have a private Zoom call that's for people that want to start their own business. You've started your own business and you just need help taking it to the next level. That could be online businesses, traditional brick and mortar businesses, or nonprofit companies too. So whatever it is that you're struggling with, we're here to help you. And I love the last answer that Paul said, where he doesn't ever want to put himself too high and then have to go a long ways to fall, because you see that happen in social media so many times where these people are bragging and boasting, and sometimes it's lies, and then other times that person falls off the face of the earth and you're like, man, what happened? They were spitting lies the whole time. So really go to God for whatever it is that you need, and then look at other people around you that are true and that want to pour into you just to fill your cup.
Oh, can I say one last thing?
This is your interview.
All right, cool. I know we're over an hour, so I'm going to just say this last thing. So the reason I really have that mindset now is, so just as a recent, I was speaking to a gentleman, he's worth like $100 million, right? And so he told me that when COVID-19 happened, he had sleepless nights. And I'm like, what the heck does the guy with $100 million have sleepless nights? And it just let me know, like, just because somebody is, making tons of money, has a high net worth, they're not, immune to human behavior of feeling worried and scared, And so that was so cool to me, to see somebody of that caliber to still be afraid, still have doubts about their life and their business, and the people that they employ. Like, that was the most amazing thing to see, and it made me realize, like, those things don't change. So a lot of times people think just because somebody has something or has this, has that they don't have any struggles. And in reality, they are having a lot of struggles, and they're like a duck on water. They're just, on top, they're just hanging out, chilling, and on bottom, they're over there, they're kicking. So it's amazing. It's amazing to see that at higher levels like that. And so same thing here. We don't have it all together. We're always working on it. And so just know, like, the people that you think have it all, they generally have, tough things going on. They're just not telling you about it, because in reality, it's none of your business. But the thing is, though, is just know, like, that's what success looks like. It's having what you want, but, still having to do the work to maintain that.
Yeah.
And grow it. So
it's never picture perfect. You never have arrived. And I talk a lot about that on the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast brand, because you can look on social media and see somebody's life and it looks like they have everything together and they're so great, but they're working on stuff too. I know, like, as women, you may look at another person like, man, that person's skinny, I want their body, but they're working on something else that you have that they love about you. So love yourself, keep on growing, make sure you are a part of the I Killed My Own Killer book series and podcast Facebook group, because there we post daily motivation, inspiration, encouragement, and we take all of your questions just to keep you killing your daily killers and help us all hit our goals. Well, thank you so much for Paul Foxworth. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast today. I look forward to seeing you in the next few minutes as we go have a movie night with Lincoln.
Well, Caitlin Foxworth, I am so proud of you. I'm so happy that I married you. And all of you out there, go buy all of her stuff. All right, she's got a huge coaching and accountability program that she's literally launching in beta. And anybody who gets in for the beta price, it is the best time to get in, because you are going to be the test group for her to devote all of her time, because as things grow and as she gets more successful with her coaching, you're going to be, essentially working with somebody who she's leveraging. So I'm telling you, if you want the best, the seed, the fruit, you want to start working with Caitlin now. And if you are a person who is interested in having that accountability to hit your health goals and really be on track to really finding that success that you've had a tough time finding on your own, make sure that you reach out to her, schedule a time on her calendar, and spend some time talking with her to see if you'd be a good fit to work with her. Because I guarantee you she's going to provide you her best and provide you the most really accountable experience that you can have for you to hit your goals within the next 90 days. So definitely hit her up about that. She's going to give you more details about it. Just basically, simply, just send her a direct message in her Facebook. They can shoot you a messenger or IG. Just hit her up, and she'll be happy to speak with you and see if it's a good fit. And then from there, hopefully enroll you into her beta group, which is only going to be, I think, about 5 to 10 people, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she can really maximize your life in the next 90 days, especially when it comes to your health. So that's my plug for my beautiful wife, and I'm out. Holla at your boy!
I didn't pay him to say that. Good night, Louisiana.